Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox 813 on the East Coast and 513 on the West Coast. One arrest made and at least two more are expected in connection with the death of a 20-year-old Southern University student after an off-campus fraternity hazing ritual. That is according to Baton Rouge police, and that is the victim right there on your screen. We know from officials, they said, quote, Caleb Wilson died as a direct result of a hazing incident where he was punched in the chest multiple times while pledging. Fraternity member Caleb McCray, 23 years old, arrested Thursday evening and faces charges of manslaughter and felony criminal hazing in the death of Wilson, a mechanical engineering junior at the school who died in late February. Baton Rouge police providing a news conference here where they did give some more information about the arrest and the situation in general.
Over the past several days, detectives with our Baton Rouge Police Department have been working tirelessly around the clock and with cooperation from the District Attorney's Office and leadership at Southern University to bring some answers to the family and loved ones of band member and engineering student Caleb Wilson. Detectives have interviewed over a dozen people and executed multiple search warrants to gather as much information as possible. As many of you know, Baton Rouge Police Department was first made aware of the death of Caleb Wilson by medical staff at Baton Rouge General Hospital on February 26th around 2:40 a.m. Initial reports indicated that Caleb Wilson was dropped off at the emergency room by a group of males that stated he collapsed while playing basketball at a Breck Park located at 3140 North Sherwood Forest Boulevard. All of those subjects left prior to officers' arrival. Through diligent efforts during their investigatory process, BRPD detectives uncovered that the location reported initially was not accurate, and that the alleged incident, in fact, occurred at a warehouse located at 3412 Woodcrest Drive. And Caleb Wilson died as the direct result of a hazing incident where he was punched in the chest multiple times while pledging to Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Through further investigation, BRPD detectives developed several suspects involved in the incident. This is still an active and ongoing investigation, so additional warrants and persons involved cannot be ruled out at this time. Last night, one of the suspects, Caleb McCray, turned himself in with his attorney and was booked into East Baton Rouge Parish Prison. McCray has been charged with criminal hazing and manslaughter. Again, this is still an active and ongoing investigation with more arrests forthcoming. We'll be updating the media and the community as these arrests occur. I ask that you all continue to keep this family in your prayers as our Baton Rouge Police Department continues to investigate and try to bring answers to this family about what happened to Caleb and arrest those that are responsible. Thank you.
This is such a tragic thing, tragic circumstances. And you just wonder if people would react when this traumatic thing happens in the right way, what could the outcome have been? They're already messing up, right, by saying they were at a basketball court playing basketball and then he passed out. Try to drive him to the hospital themselves as opposed to calling the authorities and calling the police and a paramedic that knows more on site. You never know what that impact could have been. But unfortunately, the boy lost his life already, right? So now this is all speculative. But there's levels in the judicial system for particular crimes, right? You have murder 1, murder 2, manslaughter, because the intent is considered. But the lie on top of it is a bad look. Caleb McCray, you see here, he just bonded out of prison for the charges of manslaughter and felony hazing. He actually hails from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I saw that while I was scrolling looking for information. Once again, depicted here, McCray, 23 years old, graduate of Southern University and a member of Omega Psi Phi, was arrested and charged with, again, criminal hazing and manslaughter. His bond was set at $75,000 for the manslaughter charge and $25,000 for the hazing charge. He was released Friday on bond, March 7th, shortly after 10 p.m.
This video into our newsroom from overnight. This is Caleb McCrae walking out of prison after posting bond. Police say he's charged with criminal hazing and manslaughter. The charges are in connection with the death of Southern University student Caleb Wilson. Police say Wilson died after participating in hazing rituals where pledges stood in line and then took blows to the chest. From there, he became unresponsive, and authorities say the people who brought him to a hospital, they made up a story about what exactly happened. Police say that in addition to McCrae, 2 others face charges and even more arrests are possible.
So I wanted to see what he is possibly facing, given the charges that were alleged and leveraged against him. Right? He's arrested. As we know in our country, this might even be alleged that you're innocent until proven guilty. Right? But under Louisiana state law, if a person dies or is seriously injured during a hazing ritual, it can be prosecuted as a criminal offense under the Max Groover Act. Max Groover was a Louisiana State University, or LSU, student who died of alcohol poisoning after hazing in 2018. So the penalties under this act specifically are as follows. Under the act, if a person being hazed dies or is seriously injured, violators face up to $10,000 fine or 5 years in prison. It seems a little bit light, right? Just given that the person can die. But again, under the law, intent is considered pretty heavily. Organizations, representatives, and officers of an organization and educational institution can also face penalties. Omega Psi Phi could face civil penalties under the act, just based on talking to the different prosecutors and attorneys, right? And so now right there, it does paint the picture more clearly that the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated specifically wouldn't be charged criminally, but they could face civil penalties. So, things like monies, assets, and etc. Now, the more serious of the 2 charges is obviously the manslaughter charge. So a manslaughter is a homicide. Then this is Louisiana state legislature here, right? So it's important that we go to the actual state to see how they qualify manslaughter. Is 1, a homicide, which would be murder under either Article 30, first degree murder, or Article 30.1, second degree murder. But the offense is committed in sudden passion or heat of blood immediately caused by provocation sufficient to deprive an average person of his self-control and cool reflection. Provocation shall not reduce a homicide to manslaughter if the jury finds that the offender's blood had actually cooled or that an average person's blood would have cooled at the time of offense was committed. Or, wow, that is interesting how they articulate it out. So if you had time to calm down, that means that the passion left and you decided to still commit the murder. This is more in the heat of moment, heat of passion, doing a thing, not intending for that to happen, but you lose your cool. Or an average person would consider you losing your cool in that moment plausible. That's interesting. 2, a homicide committed with any intent to cause death or great bodily harm. Okay. Now, -A says, when the offender is engaged in the perpetration or attempted perpetration of a felony not enumerated in Article 30 or 30.1, or any intentional misdemeanor directly affecting the person, or B, when the offender is resisting lawful arrest by means or in a manner not inherently dangerous, and the circumstances are such that the killing would not be murder under 30 or 30.1. Now, this is what they present the jurors with. Say, okay, these are what qualifies this person for this particular charge. How many times do you think they got to explain this for them to get it right in terms of jury instructions and etc. if this thing were to go to trial? 3, when the offender commits or attempts to commit any crime of violence as defined by RS 14:2 in parentheses B, which is a part of the continuous sequence of events resulting in the death of a human being where it is foreseeable that the offender's conduct during the commission of the crime could result in death or great bodily harm to a human being, even if the offender has no intent to kill or to inflict great bodily harm. So it looks like 3 is where Caleb McCrae gets implicated. For purposes of this paragraph, it shall be immemorial and immaterial whether or not the person who performed the direct act resulting in death was acting in concert with the offender. Okay, so I think section 3 here is what is more applicable to Caleb McRae's actions, essentially. So here's the penalty here, right? And then the statutes themselves for manslaughter vary greatly. But B says, whoever commits manslaughter shall be imprisoned at hard labor for not more than 40 years. 40 years is a lifetime, though. And I guess that's the max penalty, but that seems pretty high from what I've seen manslaughter to be. Just generally like looking up different statutes and things of that nature. However, if the victim killed was under the age of 10 years, the offender shall be imprisoned at hard labor without benefit of probation or suspension of sentence for not less than 10 years, not more than 40 years. Okay. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, and I'm sure somebody in the comments can correct us, it looks like there is a minimum sentence for if you were to delete someone that was under the age of 10 years old. So it looks like the minimum sentence is 10 years. The minimum mandatory looks to be 10 years and then no more than 40 if you were to delete someone that's under 10 years old. But it looks like the max sentence for an adult or somebody over the age, so I guess 11 and up, would be 40 years, but there's no mandatory minimum. And then it looked like it was amended a few times. So this is interesting, right? Because intent matters, and it definitely does seem to qualify for section 3 here based on what we know about the case so far. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, especially if we got any experts in the comments regarding the law. They performed the second line for the deceased, Mr. Caleb Wilson, only 20 years old. So a second line is a parade and dance tradition in New Orleans, Louisiana, that features a brass band and dancing revelers. Second lines are a popular part of weddings, funerals, and other special events. So they did a second line for Caleb Wilson. He's from the state of Louisiana specifically, and they performed one for him for his untimely demise. You know, when I was first edified about second line and whatnot, and I saw this video, I saw a few too. They actually did one for Frankie Beverly as well when he passed, even though he's not from there. He's like an adopted son. You know, when you see it and it looks like a celebration, people can see it as, you know, like contrary to what actually happened, considering the person died. But this verse popped in my head when I saw the second line, but specifically this one. Ecclesiastes 7:1 says, a good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. I think simply put, man, this world is a hellhole, man. It's tough to get through it. You know, it's full of shit and piss, dishonesty, distrust. Like the nature of people just seems to be inherently negative, you know, and you see unfortunate situations like this. And anytime you turn on the news, you know, if it bleeds, it leads was the mantra for the news. You guys should watch this movie called Nightcrawler when you get a chance. It was Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's like a van chaser with a camera for like tragic events, deaths, people getting burnt, just anything bad. They get the film, they sell it to the newscasters, and they made a lot of money that way, right? Once again, it's called Nightcrawler, but Ecclesiastes 1 is 7:1, just one more time. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. It's hard out here, man, for real.
A friend, a student, a leader, and to me, he was a mentee.
Wilson was a junior majoring in mechanical engineering. He was also a trumpet player for the Human Jukebox. His bandmates, each sharing the smiles and laughs.
Had a smile on his face and ready for a joke. So if you wasn't ready to go back and forth with him, don't start with him. That's what Shorty told me.
During the time of mourning, Wilson's father spoke, saying how grateful he was to see so many who loved his son come to support them during the process.
I really want to thank you all for the love y'all gave my son. We really will always support the Human Jukebox.
Elected officials also coming to pay their respects. State Attorney General Liz Murrow spoke out, saying she'll fight to get justice for the Wilson family.
We also need to remember that this was senseless. It shouldn't have happened. It's our job to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
And that justice, many of Wilson's friends say hopes it comes to light.
Everything comes to light, and everything will come to light. I love you.
So here you have a statement from the lawyer of Caleb McCray, who was arrested. The attorney for a man arrested Thursday night in connection with the hazing death of Southern University student Caleb Wilson says his client is innocent. Caleb McCray, 23, was arrested Thursday evening on one count of manslaughter and a count of criminal hazing. He is the first suspect to be taken into custody. And now, from what I can remember what was said, he actually turned himself in with his lawyer. This is a quote from his lawyer. At this time, I have not been presented with any evidence to support such serious accusations, said Philip Robertson, McCray's attorney. I maintain my client's innocence and urge the public to withhold rushing to judgment until all the evidence is heard. A source said earlier Thursday that the charges were being considered against at least 3 fraternity members after Wilson's death. Many young lives in our community have been altered by this tragedy, Robinson said. The impact has been felt throughout Southern University and among all families involved, and Mr. McCray should be afforded the opportunity to establish his innocence in the court of law. Robinson offered condolences to the family of Caleb Wilson, saying the young man was a bright light. During the February 27th incident, Wilson and 8 other Omega Psi Phi pledges lined up in order of height for the fraternity ritual, in which pledge is punched in the chest 4 times. A source close to the investigation says Wilson, a Kenner native, collapsed after he was punched and experienced a medical episode. But the fraternity members did not call 911 and waited to bring him to the hospital, sources have previously said. And we already spoke about that, right? Trying to remedy the issue themselves, allegedly, right? This is all alleged. Nothing has been proven. But that right there, if that's true, is very telling. So this is on the Omega Psi Phi website specifically. This is the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated anti-hazing policy. Please read carefully. I'll read it, skim it. It shall be policy that hazing will not be tolerated, condoned, or endorsed, as explicitly stated in the following. I'll just read a couple. The Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated embraces the principles contained in the statement of position on hazing as promulgated by the Fraternity Executive Association. However, for its own intent and purposes, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated Inc. espouses the following as its official statement on the position of hazing to wit. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated has a zero tolerance policy that strictly prohibits and expressly denounces the practice of hazing in any form before, during, and after the membership intake process. Pre-initiation activities for any of its chapters or by any of its members against any person seeking admission to the organization. So all of that is prohibited before, during, after. The policy expressly prohibits all acts and forms of hazing before, during, and after the membership intake process. Hazing, quote unquote, is defined as any reckless or intentional action or any situation created which produces mental or physical discomfort, embarrassment, harassment, or ridicule. Such activities and situations include, but are not limited to, paddling in any form, creation of excessive fatigue, creating or inflicting physical and or psychological shocks, conducting quests, treasure hunts, scavenger hunts, road trips, and any such other activities carried on outside the confines of a house/domicile, public wearing of any apparel or paraphernalia which is conspicuous, not normally in good taste, or otherwise banned, engaging in public stunts and buffoonery, morally degrading or humiliating an individual through words or deeds, conducting late, in parentheses, after established hours, sessions which interfere with or prohibit the pursuit of scholastic attainment or productive work, and the conduct of any activities, expressed or implied, which are not consistent with the cardinal principles espoused by the fraternity or academic missions of the college or universities where the chapters of the fraternities may exist. The express or implied consent of a person to any such actions shall not be considered as an exception to this policy, and it is not defensible as a violation thereof. A member is liable for all damages/costs incurred for any claims arising from acts of hazing. Grand Counselor will pursue this. Any individual interested in membership or seeking membership who allows himself to be hazed will be banned indefinitely from membership in the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And you see here, there's a hazing hotline, 404-284-5533, extension 3523, executive director at oppf.org. So this is on the official website. This is obviously up here before this tragic incident happened. And it says what it says. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys seen School Days. You guys seen Burning Sands. You hear a lot of rumors. You hear a lot of allegations about what happens during these processes of joining the different fraternities and sororities. Omega Psi Phi specifically means friendship is essential to the soul. I think a lot of the groups, the organizations, the fraternities and sororities get dwindled down to these things that are so superficial. Gold boots, tongue wagging, partying, drinking, and etc. And that's certainly a part of it, but it's so much more in depth when you actually get into them, right? The connections, the actual friendship being essential and things of that nature are real, you know, but people just assume that that stuff is much more gas than what they see at the parties and things of that nature, you know. Even when you in a fraternity, you know, when you initially join, you know, the things outwardly are the things that people gravitate to, you know, the hopping or the stepping, whatever you call it, you know. But as you mature in an organization, there's much more work to be done, more tangible, more substantive work that often gets glossed over and missed. But salacious things usually get put on high quite often, you know. What happened to this man, Caleb Wilson, just 20 years old? And shout out to Southern University. They actually plan to name the courtyard next to the Union after him. You know, it's just unfortunate that he earned that, how you say, praise or honor in his death, you know, but that happens a lot. Probably happens too often. People definitely need to get their flowers when they hear. It always takes something tragic for us to notice somebody, you know, often when it's too late. But the sensational things, the things that look fun, are often put on high and put forward. But there's so much work to be done, you know. And then what is the conversation, you know, about these alleged processes that are happening? Do young men need to go through such a thing to build character, to build intestinal fortitude, right? A testicular fortitude, mental fortitude, or is it over the top? Is it too much? And again, it's all alleged, right? Nothing has been proven yet in terms of what we saw. But, you know, when us old heads, and I guess I'm an old head now at 39, we say so much about the young boys. They soft, they this, they that, you know. And then we look at processes like this when in an extreme example, the boy loses his life, you know, which is unfortunate. It should not have happened, you know, with the allegations that are up front right now currently, you know. But then we say these things, and then allegedly somebody's getting pushed to a point, and now we got to condemn, you know? So how do we instill these values that we say the younger generation is missing, you know? And again, this is just me thinking out loud, kind of spitballing it, you know, but it sucks, man. That father never get his son back. That's one thing I heard parents who lost a kid before say, listen, I'd rather go before my kid any day of the week. Any day of the week, you know. It's an unfortunate circumstance. Be kind when you can. I just don't know, man. Friendship is essential to the soul. You know, lift as you climb. Enthusiasm is like a catalyst. Excuses are tools of incompetence. You know. Yeah. Any more updates come my way, man, I'll definitely let y'all know. I joined Omega Sci-Fi in 2008. My inclinations are different now, you know, however many years is that, 16 years later. But the value that it brought me initially is something that I wouldn't give back. The brotherhood, the relationships that you build and grow you can't even quantify them, right? Just the connections and how any city I go to, if I go to an Omega Sci-Fi group chat, let's say on GroupMe, and I'm in the middle of Las Vegas somewhere, I got a place to stay, a place to sleep. There's so many brothers doing such good work. There's so many brothers that you know, Michael Jordan, Shaq, Ronald McNair, Langston Hughes, Jalen Hurts, right? Just name a few people. But it only takes one bad incident to stain an organization, you know. So these are all allegations. We just jinking through it. And when we get updates, or if y'all get an update, send it to me. We'll do another video. We'll see what we can mine out. But God bless the dead, 100% Caleb Wilson. It's tragic that he lost his life. Ecclesiastes 7:1, man. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Be safe and do the right thing. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And I'm out.